Today I'll show you how to create a cozy animated night scene in Blender using Grease Pencil, even if you're just a beginner. And yes, I'll be doing this using only a mouse. If you enjoy beginner friendly tutorial like this, make sure to subscribe. Alright, let's get started. When you open Blender on the splash screen, you can choose 2D animation or you can go to File, New and choose 2D animation. Now this is what the interface looks like. On the left side, we have the two panels, and up here we can switch from draw mode to any other mode, and this white space here is our canvas where all drawings will take place. And on the right side, we have our properties panel, and down here the timeline where the animation will take place. Now up here on the outliner, we have a grease pencil stroke by default, but you can switch to object mode, go to add and add a new grease pencil. Now this will appear on the outliner, so you can click on that green icon there, or you can go to data properties on the property panel. By default, we have two layers, so we can delete it to have our own, and we can go back to the outliner and rename the stroke to background. Now we're going to rename the fill layer to wall and go to material property. Using the minus button there, we're going to remove the default material layers and create our own. So you click on the plus button, the new material, and rename it to. Now turn off stroke and turn on the fill and choose a material color. So I'll be sharing the earth color I used. We're in object mode, so we just switch to draw mode to draw. Then select the box tool and draw a rectangle over the canvas. Following that, go to data properties and add another layer and rename it to base. Create a new material for it and rename it to base. Turn off stroke and enable fill and choose the base color. Now draw a rectangle using the box tool just below the wall we drew earlier. Now go to data properties and create another layer and rename that to be floor. Then on material property, choose a new material and turn off the stroke, enable fill and choose a material for it. Now quickly enable my screencast keys and save my work. Ctrl S to save. I'll save it as 2D project. Make sure to save yours as well. Moving on, so let's go to data property and create another layer, and let's rename this to be tiles floor and go to material property. This time around we'll be using just stroke, so create a new material and rename it to tiles and choose a material color. Now we use a draw pencil for this, so select the draw pencil and we have ranges of pencil, so let's increase the strength to 1. By default, the radius is on 20, so let's increase this to see how it looks. So let's increase it to 30. I think this is okay, so let's undo that. Now we turn on guides to help us draw more accurately, so click on it and we have different options, but we'll be going with radial. Now draw your stroke across the floor to create the ties line. So just take your time and do it. Just make it to look neat. Now let's make some adjustments on this stroke outside the canvas. So on the two panels, select the eraser tool. We have some options to choose. Now let's erase. Oh, it went up. So let's redraw the stroke again. And this time we'll be trying a different method to make this work. Now tab into edit mode and click on this sign that says select mode. And when you click on it, is a 2-point stroke. Now select a point and scale to reduce, but it's not working. So I have to click on L to select both points and scale to reduce. Then I'll use G to move this to put it in position. Now moving on, let's create a layer for our window. So go to data properties, create a new layer, rename to window, and on material panel, create a new material and rename to window. We'll be using both stroke and fill to do this, and our material color will be white. Now using the box tool, let's draw a square across and press enter to release. Next, draw a rectangle shape at the bottom of the square and press enter to release. After that, let's create a layer for our glass. So on data properties, create a new layer and rename to glass. And on material, also create a new material. Rename it to glass, turn off stroke and enable fill. Now choose a material for this. Now use the box tool to draw a box. Now tap into edit mode, select the box, press L to link all the points and make a duplicate. Now select the two boxes and make another duplicate to make the boxes 4 in total. Now let's make some adjustments so it all contains in the canvas. Now quickly bring this down the floor and the base down. Now scale this wall on Z axis to make it a little bit elongated and move down the window frame down. Now select the glass plane and reduce the size so it fits right into the window. Now let's work on this layer outside the canvas. Select the floor layer and click on the drop down button there and select auto lock inactive layers. Now this will allow us to edit just the floor layer. Now make some adjustments to fill in the canvas, and on the other side I'll select a point and bring it down to cover the canvas. Still on the floor layer, click on the drop down arrow and turn off auto lock inactive layer. Select the tiles layer and also auto lock inactive layers. Now let's scale the points to reduce it. Now select a stroke, scale to reduce the size and use G to move it in place. Now let's make the glass and the window to be one layer. So click on the glass layer, click on the drop down button and select merge down. Now this make the window one object. And we can also do the same for tiles, floor and the base. So select one of the layer and click on the drop down button and choose merge down. Now it is one object. Next, we'll be drawing a lamp to make our scene look cozy. So create a layer for a lamp and move the layer right to the top. Now we'll make use of the circle tool for this. So I'll quickly choose a material for my lamp. Just choose any color of your choice. Enable the stroke and fill all together. And when we draw, we have a rounded circle. So let's undo that, and on subdivision, which is 92, let's change that to 4. And this is what we have, a hexagon. Now tap into edit mode and select the 2 points at the bottom. All the points on wall layers are highlighted. So go to lamp layer and auto lock inactive layers. So just these 2 points are selected. So press X to delete and select dissolve. Now for the stand, we don't need to make a layer for that. So go into draw mode. We'll be using the color attribute for this. So select the box tool and right at the top, select a color from the color palette and draw a rectangle. Now select the circle tool and increase the subdivision to, let's say, 32, and draw an oval shape at the bottom. Now I'll quickly make some adjustments so my lamp is standing directly on the floor. In the data properties, still on the lamp layer, turn off the auto lock inactive layers. Now let's draw the bookshelf. So add a new layer and rename that to shelf. And on the material property, add a new material. Turn off stroke and choose a fill color. Now we have a brownish color, so let's draw our shelf. The circle tool is selected, so I'm just going to change that to the box tool. When we draw, we have a black color. That's because the color attribute is on. So turn it off and enable the material icon close to it. Now let's undo that and draw a rectangle for our shelf. Now draw another rectangle at the bottom to serve as the leg. Switch to edit mode, select it and make a duplicate. Now in draw mode, we'll be drawing some books using the box tool and the color attributes. So select a color from the color palette and draw different sizes of book and with different shades of color. Now draw a few more books and go to edit mode, rotate it so the bookshelf looks more natural. Next, we'll add a few lines on the book to add details to it. And now our background scene is complete, so tap into object mode and add a new grease pencil. I'll quickly delete the one we created earlier and add a new grease pencil. Now let's rename that to be moon. Now when we go to the data property, we only have one layer there. That's because the background and the moon grease pencil in the outliner are both different objects altogether. Now on the moon grease pencil, rename the layer to moon and on the material property, choose material color and increase the alpha to 1. Next, we'll switch to draw mode and select the circle to increase the subdivision and draw a circle. Now when we release, we have a gray circle. That's because the color attribute is on. So turn it off and redraw your circle. Now let's switch to edit mode and let's turn off the fill and select the circle and make a duplicate. Now position it so you get the shape of a crescent moon, and when you are done, tap into draw mode. We'll use the cutter tool to cut out the unwanted parts. After that, turn on the fill and we have something like this. Now to fix this, go to edit mode. Select all the points, go to stroke and choose join. Now rotate this and place it in its position. Moving on, go to object mode and add a new grease pencil for our stars. So rename that to stars and in the data property, rename the layer to star. And on the material property, turn off stroke and add a fill color. Now in draw mode, select the circle tool and reduce the subdivision to 8. Now draw out the shape and we have something like this. Now tap into edit mode and select all the points. Go to select and choose alternated. Now when we scale it in, we have a regular star, but we want the cartoonish type of star. So delete this and go back to draw mode. Reduce the subdivision to 6 and draw. Now tap into edit mode. Select all the points. Go to select, choose alternated and scale it in. After that, rotate the star and duplicate it a few times. Now let's draw some white dots to create distant stars in the sky. So let's increase the subdivision to 30 and choose white from the color attribute. Now tap into edit mode and scale to reduce it, make it look very tiny and make duplicates. And that's it for the start. So now let's go to object mode and add a new grease pencil. We are going to rename that to be our clouds. Now switch to draw mode and go to data properties and rename the layer to cloud and choose a material for the cloud. Turn on the stroke and the fill. Now we use the curve tool for this. So I'll draw a line and it's showing white because the color attribute is on. So turn it off and draw. Now press the slash key to isolate this and draw a stroke. Next, push the two blue points up to create a curve. Now let's undo that and turn off fill. Draw a stroke and push the 2 points up to form a curve just like this, and to continue we press E to extrude. Now go into edit mode, select the 2 points at the end and F to fill. Now let's create another cloud using the same process. Now draw a stroke, push the two blue points up, E to extrude to create another stroke and draw. So in edit mode, select the 2 points and fill. Now press the slash key to exit local view. Enable view, select the cloud and reduce the size and place it on the window. Next, you make a duplicate and go to the grease pencil option and mirror it on X global to make variations. And that's it for the cloud. So now let's tap into object mode and create another grease pencil for our cat. So add a new grease pencil and rename that to cat. Now go to the data property and rename the layer we have there to body. We'll be creating the body of the cat first. Now we want our cat to sleep on the mat and not on the floor. So go back to object mode and go back to the background grease pencil and add another layer to draw a mat. Next, go to draw mode and select a material color of your choice. Turn off the stroke and enable fill. Next, using the circle to draw an oval shape across the floor. Following that, switch to object mode and go back to the cat's grease pencil. Now on the data property, we have the body layer already, so select a material color for the cat. Now enable stroke and also enable the fill. Also increase the alpha to be 1. Now go to draw mode and select the curve tool. So let's isolate and draw. Now let's quickly turn off the fill and draw again. So push the two blue points to enable a curve. We're trying to form a letter B, just like how we made the clouds. So push the blue curve to have a curve and E to extrude and draw. Now tap into edit mode, select the 2 points at the end to fill. Enable the fill and turn on the curve editing. The stroke point allows us to control the curve. That's the shape of the curve. Now select these 2 points here and bring it up. So the neck, we don't want a tiny neck for our cat. Now move this up, select the other point and rotate to form a curve. Now I'll select this part and I'll rotate it and also bring this up. Now once you're done with the adjustment, turn off the curve editing and press the slash key to exit local view. Next thing to do is scale the card to increase the size and move it on y-axis to bring it in front. Next, move the card to be on top of the mat and increase the size. Next, we'll be adding some thickness on the body of the card, so tap into sculpt mode and select the thickness tool. Increase the radius, or you can do that by pressing your F key to increase or decrease. Now tap to increase the thickness just like this. Now if your thickness is too much, you can go back to sculpt mode and select the thickness to reduce the radius and press on the minus button close to cursor to reduce. Following that, we can also use the push tool to also push out some parts of the body of the cat. And to work on this sharp corner, just hold down shift and press to give it a curvy shape. Now let's go back to draw mode and draw the ears of the cat. Now select the polling line tool and draw a stroke. Click down on your mouse and draw again and press enter. Now this ear is on the cat, so we want it to go to the back. Now press the icon close to draw mode which says draw at the back. Draw strokes on back. Now use the polyline to draw a stroke, press down on your mouse and draw another stroke and press enter to release. Now the ear is at the back of the body of the cat. Now draw another ear using the same process. Now I'll just quickly make some adjustments to put my ears in place. Next, use the arc tool to draw the leg of the cat. When you press enter, it's not seen because the draw on back option is still on. So turn it off and redraw. Now go to edit mode and select all the points. Press L to do that. Scale to reduce the size if needed and make duplicates. Now for the last leg, make a duplicate of the front leg and rotate it. Now draw another arc in draw mode just so it forms the hind leg. Now let's make some adjustments on the body of the cat. Turn on the curve editing and dissolve some points just so we work on the behind of the cat. Now rotate it to make it curvy. Following that, let's switch to draw mode and using the draw pencil, draw some strokes to serve as the finger. Now you can choose to reduce the radius, anyone that fits and draw. Now draw for the other leg. Now for the back leg, do the same thing, but we're having a straight line. That because the guide is turned on. So turn it off and draw freehandly. Try to make it look a bit curvy. Next for the eyes, we'll be making use of the curve tool to draw a stroke and adjust with the blue point to make a curve. Let's go to edit mode and make a duplicate. Now we can't make a duplicate because the curve editing is turned on. So turn it off and make a duplicate. Next for the cat nose, we'll draw a circle using the color attribute. So select a black color from the palette and draw. After that, draw a curved line with the draw pencil underneath the nose to form the mouth. Now turn off the color attribute and draw two curved lines underneath the nose. All done, now let's draw our tail. Now go to data property and add another layer and rename that to be tail. Now in draw mode, select the boss tool and draw a rectangle. Now tap into sculpt mode. Using the push button, let's push it to form a curve, but it's not actually working because the subdivision point in the rectangle is low. So go to edit mode, select the top point. Let's move this aside now. Select the top point, hold down shift and select the bottom point. Right click to subdivide twice. Now we add lot of points. Now let's do the same for the other end and subdivide once. Now tap into sculpt mode and using the push button, now we are able to make some curve. Now you can choose to reduce the size of the brush to push out the point just so your work is neat. Now let's go into edit mode to make some adjustments and also turn on the curve editing so the rectangle shape is more curvy. Now once you're done, select the tail and move it into position. And you can also choose to increase the thickness in the sculpt mode. Now we want the tail to go to the back of the body, right? So go to data properties and select the body layer and using the move button, just move it so the body is on top of the tail. Moving on now, let's make another layer and rename that to before. So in material properties, choose a darker shade of color and turn on the stroke and fill. Now draw the for using the polyline tool, and when we draw it, we can't see it. That's because we need to put in the data properties, bring the four right above the other layers. Now when we draw, we can see our drawing. So now let's quickly draw the four in a triangular shape on the face of the cat. Also make some drawings on the body of the cat and also on the tail and on the ears. And that's it for the drawing part of our scene. So now we'll just be animating three grease pencil objects: the clouds, the cats, and also the stars. Now starting with the cloud grease pencil, so go to object mode, and on your timeline your frame has to be on frame 1. So press I to insert location and move to frame 250 and move the cloud, select the cloud and move it slightly to the side and also insert location. Now when we play this is what we're going to have. You can see the clouds drifting. Now before you start animating, make sure your keyframe is on frame 1, and if it isn't there, just move the keyframe down to 1. Now the next thing to do is to animate our stars to twinkle. Now go into edit mode, and on frame 1 you can see the keys are already framed in. Now I'll quickly go to material property and change the color of my star. On frame 20, I am going to go to data property and reduce the opacity to 0.5 and press the white button close to it to key in the keyframe. And when we go to frame 40, we just need to increase the opacity back to 1 and go to frame 60 and reduce the opacity. And you can see that it's keyed in automatically because the auto keying is on. So when we go to frame 80, we do the same thing, but you notice we don't have the frame icon like that of frame 1. Now click on this icon here and choose dope sheet. Now you can see the icons there. So now select all of it and shift D to make a copy, since we just want the twinkly effect all around. So make another duplicate and move it to other frames. And now when we play this, you can see the stars twinkling. After that, select the drop down menu and go back to grease pencil. And finally, the last grease pencil object to animate is the cat. So type into object mode, select the cat grease pencil, go to data properties, and let's merge all our layers to be one, so our cat is just one object. Now to get the sleeping mode, we just need to scale our cat vertically. So on frame 1, just press I to insert scale. And when we go to frame 20, we are going to select the cat. Now let's set the origin to geometry. Select the cat, go to object and set the origin to geometry. Now scale the cat upward on Z axis a little bit and press I to insert location and scale. And on frame 40, reduce the scale and insert scale and location. And on frame 60, still scale it and insert frame to scale and location. Now we can't see the keyframes, but let's go to dope sheet and we can see all of it. Since we want the same effect for all, select all the keyframes and make duplicate. Now let's play this to see what we have. And you can see the rising and the falling of the cat's body. Now quickly go back to grease pencil from the dope sheet and pull down my timeline so we can play out our full animation. Now let's press the space bar key and we can see our full animation playing, the clouds drifting, the twinkly stars and the sleeping cats. Amazing, right? Now let's render this our animation. Go to output on the property panel and choose where you want your work to save. Then the next thing, you change the file format to FM MPEG video. Now go to render and render animation. Now, you notice something while practicing, the render animation for 2D is more faster compared to that of 3D animation. And finally, this is our 2D grease pencil animation. Amazing, right? I hope this tutorial helped you learn grease pencil animation in Blender. If you like beginner friendly tutorial just like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video.